Hello, everyone. You're listening to How We Heal, the podcast. I'm Kira Noel, medical intuitive, your host. Our sponsor is the medicinebuddhawithin.com. Intuitive training for all. Check out the website and register and be invited to all the upcoming trainings. Now let's begin our show. Hi, welcome to How We Heal, the podcast. My name is Kira Noel. I'm here today with my guest, Linda Gnat-Mullin. I met her, I was trying to recall how long ago I had a session with you. It must have been like 1999 or something around that time.
That's about right, yeah.
And I have to say, I still regard you as the only person I would ever have your skill with on me. That's just how I feel. I had such an amazing experience. I have referred people to you. I still would. You are a treasure in the field of healing, Reiki, psychic skills. If you have the opportunity to, please, you're missing such a great thing if you don't. Try Linda Gnat-Mullin. And I've asked her here today, and thank you so much for coming to share how she got to become her being in this world and bring her own special view. So thank you, Linda. Thanks for being here.
That's very kind, Kier. I appreciate what you had to say. This month is actually my 25th anniversary of declaring my place in the world to do a full-time Reiki practice. And so I'm pretty happy because I had no idea at the beginning as to how this might work. So a little bit of what I'm going to talk about is for other people who have a dream or desire to offer themselves in terms of healing, alternative medicine, and maybe this will be helpful to their thinking as well. So before I got into Reiki, I spent many, many years studying all kinds of alternative therapies. I did NLP and Hawaiian shamanism and Irish shamanism and shamanism in general and remote viewing and something called Silva a very long time ago. And all of these techniques were very interesting, but none of them clicked with me. And I really envied the life of artists who were willing to burn the furniture in order to keep creating, if you know what I'm saying, that I wanted to find that special thing. So one day, a friend of mine said, I'm starting to do this thing called Reiki and I need to practice. Would you let me work with you? And I said, sure, let's give it a try. And the moment I experienced it, I got up from the table. I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. So Pamela Miles, who was very well connected with the medical community, and so I said to myself, well, this is good. I'll go study with someone like this because then I won't be dealing in flaky Reiki, right? I like
that word.
The good stuff. And so I did study with Pamela Miles, and that was a great adventure. Particularly early on, I was asked to assist in a class of newly diagnosed HIV positive patients. And this was when they still called it the Gay Men's Health Crisis Center. And I got to do that. I was very honored to be able to do that and learned a lot from Pamela. I still regard her as sort of the gold standard, if you will, in Reiki. But I also wanted to try another kind of Reiki. And so I worked with a woman named Mary Fran O'Neill. Mary Fran O'Neill had the heart of just the biggest heart ever. And she had attuned a lot of nuns to Reiki, even though that was considered inappropriate by the church. And so I worked with her for my mastership, and she was just great. She was wonderful. But I didn't really bring anything. I had a few clients here and there. What I was doing in the meantime, in those days, to put bread and butter on the table, because we had a son and that needed to happen, was I was working in advertising. And I was actually writing for a defense contractor, among other things. So talk about being in the wrong context. That's a thing in life, is that you can do well in the context, but if it's the wrong context, what does that mean? And this was certainly that. I would write about planes that fueled in midair and all this sort of thing. And I thought, I don't know about, but still there's, as we all have, or many of us have, that that need to put the bread on the table. And so at a certain point, there was an internet bubble, a second internet bubble, and I found that I had less to do. And so I said, I have a little bit of cushion. I'm going to try this. I want to see if this can work. And I loved Reiki so much, and I started to have clients. I put my signs up on bulletin boards at grocery stores. I did whatever I could do. And I started doing the Reiki. And immediately I saw that this was a beautiful thing to be able to do, because it's like Sara Lee pound cake. Nobody doesn't like Reiki, really. And it can go almost anywhere. You can do it with plants, with animals. You can do it for situations. You can offer Reiki. We offer Reiki. And that's the other beautiful thing, is that we offer it. And someone who is a recipient will take in as much as they need, however they need, and in the priority in which they need it, which I also think is amazing. This happened to me early on, just after I learned Reiki 1. I had a friend who had a little antique kind of shop. Antique, I guess, might have been a kind term for some of those things, but it's the basic idea. And I said, I just learned this Reiki. May I try this on you? She said, sure. She sat down. I put my hands on her head, and she immediately felt it in her toe. And she said, I'm feeling this in my toe. I said, well, did something happen to your toe? And she said, oh yeah, I stubbed it today moving furniture. So right away, I really saw how wonderful Reiki could be in just the simplest fashion. And I have noticed through the years that Reiki organizes so much other work. Reiki, I noticed this particularly after 9/11. I was just coming up on that. The first day I was going to have 2 clients that day. It was like a big milestone in my little practice. It was September 11th. I was out in the garden. I was gathering white roses for my Reiki room, and I heard a crash. And I thought, I wonder, there's so much construction on 4th Avenue, and there have been complaints. I wonder if a wall fell over there. I didn't know what had happened. And then we discovered what had happened, and I needed to go collect our son on Henry Street in Brooklyn Heights. We had a ride over Cobble Hill, and we walked through this blizzard of paper. And we got him home. And at that point, I was too new in my practice to really hold the kind of grief and shock that could have been brought to me by individual clients just at the beginning. So I did volunteer work, went to the medical examiner's office and worked. It was like a MASH unit where they had tents everywhere. And I would go and work as part of that group. We would work on the World Trade Center workers, and we would work in teams. And sometimes I realized that the adrenaline they were using to do their work was so great that they weren't feeling certain pains. I never forgot that one day I began to put my hand on a gentleman's knee, and the pain shot right up my arm, which is very unusual in Reiki, but it does happen. And tried to signal to my partner, avoid that knee, but she got it too. But I know that we made a big difference for them in the work that we did. It helped them just have a moment of respite, just have a moment of calm, just to come back within themselves,
Definitely.
And I did that for a while. And then people started coming to me. And one person who came to me, we began to work with her, and she had a spontaneous past life regression. And that's another thing I like to work with, is past lives. I've worked with those for many years. I love history. And so I can kind of start to identify things by asking about things like footwear and occupations. And it turned out that she had been involved in the Crusades, more specifically in the Second Crusade. First Crusade, the Christians won. Second Crusade, they were surprised. And I had someone with me that I was helping to train, and we began to draw the helmets that we saw in the vision of this woman's death as a person in crusades. And my assistant also observed that there was cloth armor on some of the soldiers there. And I thought, how interesting. I've never heard of that. But we looked it up. Lo and behold, not only were all of our helmets correct, but to the time, but the mercenaries used cloth armor at that time because I guess they were considered pretty expendable.
So you had a lot of validation when that happened.
That was pretty much
huge.
The case. So we offered Reiki and we helped the soul of that being. We contacted the soul of that past life and we were able to release the trauma from way back when, which was still affecting this woman today.
So you do kind of the cycles of birth and death and the transformation to heal those, those multiple lifetimes if they need to be healed. You help with that.
Yes, we can help with that and Reiki can help with that.
So Linda, I'm going to interrupt you and say, for people listening, Linda's telling me this story and I'm thinking, of course, it's factual, because I work in a very interesting frequency as well.
Yes.
And mine is not fuzzy-wuzzy either. And I take it as completely factual. And I had the experience with you of a past life and factual release, physical change from it. So can you describe it all? Where are you when you're with the Reiki? Where are you in the process? Are you present? Where are you in this?
I am present and I am also somewhere else with the client. It's not like one of those old British comedies where they said, "Oh, what happened?" Nothing like that when they come back from the trance. I am present. My feet are on the ground in Brooklyn and I am also traveling with the client. Not traveling completely with the client because I want to empower the client. I hope you don't mind the word client. That's just what I use. I don't like to say patient or anything.
Client's perfect. Yeah, that's my phrase too. Yeah, that's my word.
I will ask questions and that's very important because in past life work, it's easier to tell an accurate past life because you listen to what the client has to say about things like footwear, surroundings, vocabulary, occupation, all of these things. I guess I'm going off and talking about past lives here, so I guess I will do this. One client who, it turned out, had been involved in the war around which the charge of the Light Brigade happened. And she was able to give all the details, including her emotional content, how they started off very excited. And then as the war waged on, they were just sort of miserable. And this is what they used to shave. And this is what they did. And they were brought up before a sort of a tribunal and about ground, I forget what it was, ground forces, what they did, all of this. I later researched all of it and it was point by point correct. And this is a young woman who started her life in the Philippines and really had more of the Eastern culture than the Western culture. But anyway, back to Reiki. I did make a U-turn there. So after 9/11 and that season of healing, I did have a lot of clergy members who would come to me for help because they were carrying so much grief and I worked with them. And then the practice started to build again. And then spring came around and I got an accountability partner in fine arts so that we could talk about how we were doing what we were doing in our individual leadings. And I said, I really want a bread and butter job so that I can support this Reiki because this means so much to me. And 3 days later, I had a bread and butter job writing for a cooking school. And I wrote about bread and I wrote about butter, among other things. So
that's what you asked for.
I asked for it and I got it. And that's sort of like the first time I did Reiki in a corporate setting. I said, I'd really like to have a safe place to do this work. And I walked in and they put me in a storeroom with a big safe in it. So thank you. So
we do get what we ask for. That's the power.
We do get what we ask for. And you can kind of tell who's presenting it based on a little bit on how literal the response is.
Right.
Thank you all.
Right. The
I have,
conference or the individual. So, Linda, how do you get ready to do Reiki? Do you clear yourself? Is there a ritual?
yes. First of all, I believe that anybody who's doing any kind of work like this needs to have a daily ritual every
I
morning,
agree. I agree.
every morning, every morning before I do anything else, including before coffee or breakfast or anything. I am in the Reiki room, sitting down near the floor, that humility, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff, the
Right.
humus.
That's right.
And I do morning prayers and I pray for a number of people and I do a big pile of papers for distance Reiki. I'm still doing all of the 9/11 people and all of their families, among other things, and then other requests as well. So I have a morning where I send Reiki to all these people. And then I chant in Tibetan because I like that with a mala.
Me too.
And then after that, I write a little letter to God or whatever, to whom it may concern, and write a letter to, and then I thank all my guides and masters, angels, archangels, energy doctors, everybody who comes to these sessions and helps out because
Well, we're like separated at birth because that is what my morning routine is, the presentation of myself as I am, waiting for directions for the day from my guides
yes,
and receiving humbly as well as prayers and salutations and prostrations. And I
yes,
do most of my work in Tibetan because I've been very involved in the one of the lineages of Tibetan monastics for a long time. And it speaks to something in me. It speaks to the inner part of the inner awakened being I am that can kind of bring herself out into the world when I offer it.
yes.
So I think it's so interesting to me to hear your process, which I've never asked you about before, and how similar these processes are.
Well, I do think we were separated at birth, and maybe there's a place in Tibet where we where we knew each other at some point. I
Yeah,
don't know. You never know.
very likely. I'm very aligned with Tibetan Buddhism, and I have a very regular practice and very seriously committed to it. Um, just getting started, but
Yes, that's what they would call just getting started and
just
just
getting
scratching the
started.
surface, right? We're just getting. And the other thing I recommend, or how would I say it, suggest, is also being asked to be a vessel all day long. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have days when I have a little bit of a ratty mood or something like that, but that never comes into the Reiki room. That's very, very clear. Any stays out of the Reiki room. But I ask for the opportunities all day long so that I can try to be a channel for light. And so I think that's very helpful as well.
I do the same. It's ongoing.
Yes.
We
Yes, it
have
really.
the connection doesn't. You don't plug in and then run off to the gym or the grocery store, and the plug comes out of the wall.
Yes, yeah. Love it. I love it. Love it. So
Excuse
let's
me.
see now. What was your question
Oh,
here?
I was fascinated by your ritual to do Reiki. And then what you said earlier is I'm very interested in the remote part of your work, the papers that you hold every day to send Reiki to all these various beings that have asked for this. Do people contact you for that? For the remote
Yes.
healing?
Oh, yes. Remote. Yes, absolutely. I call it healing facilitation. That's just my approach. I say healing facilitation because
That's
my belief is that truly all healing is self healing. And I'm here to provide context, facilitation, and ideas and energy. Energy, of course. Energy and sometimes questions, that,
yeah,
that,
yeah.
that
Well,
are very helpful. But yes, I regularly Reiki over Zoom and the phone with other parts of the world. I regularly work with someone in Beijing and sometimes irregularly with someone in Ireland. And we just do it either on the phone or on Zoom. And it works very well because Reiki, like a lot of energy work, is related. There's a way to describe it through subatomic physics. And what it is the what is it now? How do we call it? In other words, this electron over here and this electron over here are bouncing at the same time, right? So I can instantly, simultaneously feel what is happening in the client's body, particularly, and see it in the energy field as we work, even though it's thousands and thousands of miles apart. And I'll
You
say, oh, good, now tell me about your shoulder, or I think I feel a release in your shoulder. What are you feeling? I don't want to prescribe to them. And I can be in Brooklyn and see sort of a snarly bit of energy in an aura, for instance, and work to smooth it out and then pick up the response from it and also the response from the client. But I'm also getting it, within my own field, if you will. So I do a lot of that. And telephone, I regularly do telephone Reiki as well. And I can do distance sessions. Reiki permits this. There are various kinds of distance sessions. For instance, one kind of distance session, I let myself be governed by the idea of best possible outcome, highest good. That is what we are doing the Reiki for, because it's never just about the knee, as you know, Kira. It's never just about the knee. It's about the whole situation where the knee is talking, if you will.
That's
So,
a good way to describe it. Yeah.
highest good. And so I can send Reiki on that basis where I'm just sort of doing this sort of thing. Or I can visualize someone, and this is not about me. I'm just saying Reiki permits one to visualize someone on the table, for instance, and working through with them as one would do a physical session. And that's another way. Some people like one thing, some people like another thing. Some people like a combination, which you can also do.
It's phenomenal. I mean, you and I have not spoken since I had a session with you in 1999, probably at the very beginning of your practice.
Yes.
And I work as no one podcast isn't where I usually share my professional, my bread and butter job is a medical intuitive. So,
yes.
But the way I describe it, and most clients are 90%, 99% remote, 99%.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's that the electrons around the atoms are what we are vibrationally connecting to. So we're in the same field of thought.
Yes.
And I, kind of use the concept of your DNA is so specific and unique, and it has its own field of energy that I literally find it. No matter where you are in the world, we connect.
Yes.
It's a broadcast channel. It's your broadcasting channel, and I'm tuning in my radio to be there.
That's it.
And you and I are saying the same thing, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's
different work, but the same idea of how to find this person in the world. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely amazing to me because it's right there, as you say, broadcast channel right there. There you are. And so we can, I've also done work in the past. And in fact, I did attune someone's past life to Reiki once which was really interesting. We could see the past life, an herb woman, typical kind of situation, which on the edge of town, if you will, in a little cottage, people that depending on the context of the society, some people would go there because, yes, this is the person who has the medicinals. Some other societies, this is the person you avoid unless you're desperate. It depends on the society. But I sort of visualized her coming into sitting down on one of the chairs in the Reiki room, and I tuned her to Reiki, and she seemed very pleased. And then she went back to her timeline. So
beautiful. No, and it's you're a little, you're a powerhouse. That's all I can say.
Well, it's about the Jung always said, follow your client. And I used to think, what I do seems to be sort of random or ADHD when I'm going here and there and then pulling out the rattles and all these things. But then I finally said, okay, I had a dream one day where I gave him an overcoat. I don't know what. So I'm willing to try something carefully, groundedly with someone. And I keep an open mind, and heart. If it's not working, no problem. We won't do any more of that. But let's see if we can do something together. Because in Reiki, it's you, me, and the divine, the perfect partnership,
Right. The source.
the source, the source. And so I have had occasion to bring Reiki to a troubled, venue. Sometimes a real estate agent might ask me to come in because I know that sounds really bizarre, but that the place is just, the energy is so unpleasant that when people
Mhm.
walk in, they don't like it.
Mhm.
And sometimes, or a family that wants to turn a room into a nursery, but they don't know why. That just doesn't feel right. I've had different cases like this, and I've gone in and found in one case about the nursery that it was a back room used by someone in Brooklyn who was precipitating a railroad scandal of some kind. And so I was able to kind of work on all of that. And
So you do a
Reiki
lot.
works
You do a
very,
lot. Yeah.
is fascinating. It's a good thing to also like history in this case. But
Yes.
but Reiki really, you can do classic Reiki, and that's just great. And there's a wonderful article in The Atlantic, which, by the way, I would say that people would enjoy reading, called "Reiki Just Can't Possibly Work, So Why Does It?" That was in April a couple of years ago. So I invite people to look for that, The Atlantic
That
magazine.
sounds great. Yeah.
And so just classic Reiki itself is helping veterans who forgot how to sleep to learn to sleep again. We used it on medical people who had come to help out after Hurricane Sandy. These were mostly doctors. And we started working on them, and they were so exhausted because they were working on all these nursing home people at the Armory on 14th Street, all these nursing home people. They were too exhausted to resist. And they said, "What is this? This is great. Oh, this is called Reiki, doctor."
Well, and
And
Reiki is now available, I believe, at Sloan Kettering, and
yes,
in the ward to help people heal and relax and calm down energetically and emotionally, to just bring you back into your body and not be so triggered. It's phenomenal. And your energy flow. So how do you maintain enough energy in your body for yourself? Tell me more. Do you have any methods, or to take breaks, make sure how do you care for this body that's you know,
yes.
bringing all that through?
Well, first of all, Reiki doesn't tire, but sometimes problem solving can be, if I'm working with someone and I'm trying to pick up the information. So what I need to do is, I'll be 76 in November. And so what I need to do is take time for myself, and, as boring as it is, try to eat properly as much as possible. And I work in my garden, which I say is a Darwinian proposition.
Why?
Sometimes, well, I'm not a person who's out there every single day, because sometimes we have little problems with bugs or something. So I have to, wear a coverall and things like that, and come in and have a whole ritual. But, and laughing is incredibly important. So not to take myself too seriously. As I get older, it's more and more important not to take myself seriously. Let younger people tell me what's really going on and things like that. And to be able to say, "Oh, okay, no problem here." And just to look at life around me, the dog that wants to come up and greet me next to the dog store, which they all love, the pet store that they're all straining at the leash to get into, or looking at the little kids who are on the scooters and are managing to scoot around me. Or I I think reading, praying is really important, and keeping reading, I wouldn't say sacred materials, but for instance, right now I'm rereading Dancing the Dream, which was written by Jamie Sams, who co-wrote the medicine cards. And she is no longer physically with us, but you see her face, she looks like she has such wonderful coyote trickster energy. And
That's great.
so to read that and to remember what I'm doing, and to rededicate myself to what I'm doing, to remember, okay, I'm here to be a channel to the best of my ability to help other people become the highest version of themselves that they can be, the ones that they planned on before they incarnated, if you will. Or if you want to put it in a little bit different context, to allow them to recognize and use their potentials. That's one thing Dr. Usui, the founder of Reiki, said, is that this allows people to recognize and use their potentials. So, and that's one of the things that Reiki can do as well. It puts one in a liminal state. So you're not quite here, you're not quite there. And
That's right.
and on the cusp of that comes new possibilities. And that is really exciting. That's exciting.
That's transformative. There's a transformation possibility.
Yes.
I want to invite you, if you have not written even a pamphlet, I don't know what you would call it, but not flaky Reiki would be a good title.
Not flaky Reiki.
Not
right.
Flaky Reiki by Linda Gnat-Mullin, and just the steps you take to get, what I hear in your sharing is that this is serious business. Okay. You have people with, real urgent needs. Some maybe not so urgent, but I think for all of us, it's urgent in the time we're in. And they can get that little, connection they need. There's kind of you're putting the connection back into their field of vision.
Yes.
So they can transform that, and I love the generosity of, the body heals itself. It does.
Yes.
We know this. And the spirit, the soul, the individual, the entirety of them connected when they're integrated and connected. And there's an interdependency that is healthy and vibrant. The lights go on inside. They just do.
Yes.
And that's what happened to you. And I think it happened to me many, many decades ago when I just woke up and here I was.
Yes.
And there seems to be a methodology that you and I have very similar ideas about that no school can teach you.
Right.
A student, if you were to, have you ever had a student in Reiki?
Yes, I teach Reiki 1, 2, and Mastership.
Fantastic. That's something everyone should do.
I really think it's a design for living that really works in so many instances. And so it's almost like having your own, how would I say it? First aid kit, if you will, to be able to do Reiki 1 for yourself. And and also one can you can do Reiki with your eyes. You can do Reiki with your heart. Sometimes when I'm on in a subway car, I will use what is called the first symbol and just sort of put it around in the car. And so those who want it can have it. And, it's kind of a bright symbol, like lightens up, brightens things up. And those who don't want it, that's perfectly fine too. But you can just bring that out like that. And to be able to do that with Reiki 1 is a good thing. You could work on your family, work on your pets, your plants, etc. And the Mastership program I do, Reiki 1 and 2 are relatively short sessions, but Mastership, I ask for a lot of anybody who's going to do Mastership. And community, they need to do a community project, write up a syllabus, do class, materials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot. It's well over time.
Not surprising. I think you're teaching a way of life, not just a professional. It's not this. My knowledge of the work I do and the work you're doing is this. We've been given this blessing.
Yes.
We're here to help.
Yes.
And this, universe and source and its infinite wisdom makes this something we can do full time because it provides us with a living, which is lovely and wonderful and generous.
Yes.
And we take what we do very seriously.
It's go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Very serious, not always solemn. One of the
very good. That's very well put. Yeah.
One of the things I do, I'm very serious about my work. I was able to, by the way, to circle back, I was able to leave the cooking school honorably after a couple of years and was able to just simply do Reiki, which was wonderful. And I would do evenings to invite people in, like do an evening around the holiday times with the evening with the angels, and we would do angel workshops and things like this. And then my son, who I say was born with a briefcase in his hand, which was a little painful but ultimately useful. When he was a young kid, I would ask him to produce the workshop because he wanted to do that. Now today, he's on the crew of major sports and things like that. So he got his start by producing Reiki workshops.
Fascinating. How old is your son now?
He's 33.
Well, that's interesting. My son is 32.
Wow.
Well, here we are. Just
United.
astonishing. Well, I got to work with the Red Cross after 9/11.
That's great, Kira.
Doing medical intuitive work. Yeah, it was amazing. So I want to point out you have a book online, Kisses Out of the Blue. It's kind of
Kisses Out of the Blue. That's available on Amazon.
I know I see it's on Amazon, but we have mixed feelings about that from a political standpoint. It's a place to buy a book.
Yes, it's a place to buy a book. Yeah, I don't do.
No, and it's 22 life-embracing stories from the dead, inanimate objects, star brothers, geese, and other unlikely sources. A great collection of your experiences that you've had.
I think that it's a way to lift the heart. If you're reading some of these stories, it will help to lift the heart.
Beautiful.
Because I think part of what we're dealing with right now is that we're so embroiled in this sort of thing right here, all these things that are happening, and everybody's very polarized and everything like that. It's to be able to get up higher. You know what I mean? To see it from a higher perspective. And some of these stories will help that happen because the synchronicity is there and the tenderness is there. And I also believe that right now, one of the things we can do for each other is to be more tender toward each other. Whether you're doing Reiki or not doing Reiki, one of the things we can do for each other, because I think a lot of people are really, things are moving very rapidly right now, and more so, faster all the time. We need to remember tenderness and kindness to each other.
Yeah.
And
especially now.
Consideration for one another, because a lot of, it's not so easy for many people. Young people having a hard time with dashed dreams, if you will, of what they were going to do for their bread and butter, things like that. Older people, it's really a time to, if at all possible, go against what might seem like the prevailing tide with the billions of dollars here and there, and just extend tenderness and kindness.
Such a beautiful statement. This was in a moment yesterday or the day before that we all can bring the middle way to the problem. The middle way meaning just meeting each other as humans that are struggling, and not here to condemn or strike or create change in others. It's about that openness. Come to every moment with openness.
Yes.
That openness. So, Linda, I would love for you to talk for another 5 hours.
Sure, it would be great to talk to you for another 5 hours. But
I think we have so many client experiences to share, and just the amazing life you live because you said yes. And I think this is such a wonderful place for people to hear about the power of just being completely, fully who you were here to be. Just being who you are in this day and this moment, and the light that was in us that we both have said, oh, yeah, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
And the scary time when, I was raising 2 kids and I was making a living as an interior designer, and I was terrified to become a medical intuitive and think I would make a living. I was like, that's not going to work. I cannot afford it. And the universe opened all the doors that needed to open.
That's right.
That's amazing. Right. Amazing. What a gift.
It really will. And part of what is important is gratitude, to recognize in a given day, are you okay today? Are you okay today? If you're okay today, look around you, notice the blessing, even if it's somebody gave you a popsicle on the street. I don't know what. It was something,
Something
that-
simple. Yeah.
something simple. Somebody smiled at you, or somebody held the door for you, or anything like that, or you had an extra XYZ. I don't know. Recognize your blessings. And
Yeah.
the other thing I want to say briefly is that sometimes the worst things turn out to be the best things.
I find that's absolutely the case in my story and in my clients' stories because we walk into it. We don't leave it. We don't try to bury it.
Right.
We go, okay, I'm going to open. I need to open and have more space because there's more.
Yes.
And without the resistance, without the label, it's a transformative experience to have pain, to have fear, to have physical ailment. It's an incredibly transformative experience.
That's a great way to characterize it, Kier. It really is. It really is.
It is such an opportunity. And what I want to tell our listeners, every time an event is happening, good or not, as you might identify it, everyone needs a Linda Gnat-Mullin. The incredible room with the table, which I was in, there was so many energies coming when we were together that it just completely changed my life. It did. I think you're one of the key elements. You're one of the architects of who Kier Noel became. You are. You didn't think about it. You didn't think it into being. You lived it into being.
I'm just grateful that I was able to help. That's all I'm
Thank you.
Just to help a little, and I'm grateful if it.
Yes, I'm grateful too. And it's just people are like, "What you do this?" I said, "Buy me a cup of coffee." I mean, it's what we do. It's what you do.
That's right.
How do we find you, Linda?
energeticempowerment.org.
Okay,
is
great.
my little website, and you can also probably Google my name and find me that way. It's for those. It's GNAT-MULLIN. I just say to people, it's a weird name. Let me spell it for you. It has to do with my husband's family, and I don't want to. There's no need for all the details about it, but there it is.
It's a name I've never forgotten, and I forget names.
Well, you have a beautiful name too. I always remember Kier Noel. It's beautiful.
Yes, I was given a blessing of a name that's good for Christmas time, I was told.
It's great.
So, Linda, thank you so much for being here and taking the time from this life of connection that you're living, which is fantastic. I'm glad you're still where I went to see you. Something about that block. There's something magical about 14th Street in Brooklyn that you've kept your spot there.
Thank you. And thank you for your generosity of heart in this, and just to ask me to talk. And this whole interview has been just delightful. I'm so grateful. And
thank you.
Appreciative.
Well, you're very well. Well, thank you for being you. Thank you for being you.
Thank you for being you, Kier.
Thank you, Linda. I hope to see you in person soon.
That would be great. I'd love it.
I would love it too. Have a good rest of your day. We want to thank the following people. Jennifer Maidman for original music. Listen to her on iTunes and Spotify. True English of Upstate Podcast Studio for sound and recording engineering. And all our executive producers. See you next time.